made that clear. You have campaigned for him. Is there anything, though, you'd critique or do differently?
My critique is not being focused on America first, but I largely blame that on our Congress because I serve in the House. I also blame that on who's advising him in the White House. You know, keeping him on nonstop tours around the world and nonstop meetings with foreign countries' leaders is not America first. It's just not. I think domestic policy should be the most important issue that the president and the Republican-controlled House and Senate are working on, and that showed up in the election on Tuesday.
But as the president, does he get some responsibility for that?
Well, of course. I mean, every president is responsible for the way that they lead, but they're also in a silo of information. And I think that's why after the election on Tuesday, you saw President Trump come out and react differently, probably because they couldn't keep him siloed. And here's the polls, sir, and this is what people are saying. I think he saw for himself, and he's reacted.
It's very interesting. You're an influential Republican in the House of Representatives, and we hear you breaking with your party on several issues, like the shutdown, the government shutdown, health care, foreign policy, the Epstein files. You say that's nothing new, but Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's arguing that this is all a, quote, revenge tour on your part because President Trump prevented you from running for Georgia's Senate seat next year. Is there any truth to her claim?
No, there's no truth to it. I actually put out a statement earlier this summer on why I didn't want to run for Senate. And if you look at the gridlock in the Senate right now, that actually I find repulsive, it just shows, why would I'm a serious person. I like to achieve things. I never want to go work somewhere where you can get nothing done.
So Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't just make a mistake, she actually crossed the line. What you were hearing was a CNN excerpt of her thoughts about the country and about the government shutdown, as well as her quote unquote, love for Trump. She still likes the man, but she just disagrees with him. But when you start using left-wing talking points to attack your own side, that's not being a fighter, as she proclaims, that's betrayal. And the worst part is a lot of people on the right are still clapping for it. Now, let's rewind a second. Okay, so MTG sold herself as the no compromise conservative. She's America first, against the Unity Party, exposing corruption, and standing up to the media and the left. Now, she told you she was different, from the weak Republicans who fold every time CNN gets mad, and people backed her because they were sick of the rhinos using left-wing framing to apologize for being conservative. So then what happens? She turns around and starts using, the same left-wing rhetoric against her own side. Now, here's the move that tells you everything. When MTG doesn't like someone on the right, she doesn't just use come on. She just doesn't argue policy. She borrows the left script, okay? So now suddenly people who disagree with her, they're the extreme ones. They're dangerous, conspiracy theorists, embarrassing the party. Now, does this all sound familiar? That's exactly how MSNBC talks about all of us. Now, the left, they spend years painting the right as crazy, unsafe, illegitimate. And MTG's response is to turn around and throw those same labels at conservatives who don't kiss her ring. Now, to me, that's not leadership. That's more so doing the left's work for them. Now, just watch the pattern. A conservative calls out the GOP for failing the border, spending on the deep state, instead of answering the criticism. Now, MTG goes straight to the left style smears. She'll call conservatives crazy, dangerous, they're helping the enemy. That's exactly how the left shuts down debate. They don't argue, they just label. And we've got a so-called fighter on the right using those same labels at our own base, which is crazy to me. Now, some people will say, come on, Blackwing, you're overreacting. It's just politics. No, no, it's not just politics. It's when you legitimize left-wing narratives, what happens is, you know, it just taints your own movement. Now, the left's whole strategy is simple: make conservatives look insane, make their ideals sound crazy, you know, also make conservative voters look dangerous. And they can justify anything. So the left can justify censorship, investigations, deplatforming, lawfare, and also political violence, as we see. Now, when MTG uses those same talking points on the right, she's not owning the rhinos. She's reinforcing the exact story that the left uses to crush us. So, what should a real conservative, response sound like if you actually cared about the movement? It should sound like this. So, I disagree with the person on this policy, and here's why. Here's my plan. Here's theirs. You decide. We can debate tactics, but the enemy is still the left, the bureaucracy, the uni party. Now, that's how adults argue. But when you jump straight to they're extremists, they're crazy, they're dangerous, congrats to you, because you're now auditioning for a guest panel spot on CNN, and that's the left wing framing, and it has no place in a serious right. So, what's the real cost of all this, right? Every time a conservative like MTG uses left wing talking points on the right. Now, three things do happen. So, the first thing is the media, of course, cheers. They'll be like, see, even they admit it, but it's a whole bunch of BS. The second thing is that independents look and overthink. Wow, maybe the right is really nuts, or maybe the right is really crazy. Why would I ever vote for somebody on the right? And the third thing is the base gets more divided, more demoralized, and more confused. Meanwhile, the border was open, but it's now closed. They're saying spending is still insane, and the agencies are still out of control. The left stays focused on power, while, us conservatives, some of us are addicted to the drama. But I just want to ask you a straight up question, okay? When you hear a conservative using the exact same language, as the left to attack other conservatives, now, is that a smart thing to do to clean up our side, or is it B, open betrayal that hands ammo in the hands of the enemy? Now, in the comments section, drop an A or B and tell me why in one sentence. So, this channel is never going to stop, and we're never going to clap like a seal just because someone has an R next to their name or yells on Twitter. Like, I don't care about their brand. I care about the results and narratives, right? So if you start using left wing talking points, to kneecap your own side, I'm calling it what it is: bullshit. And I don't care if your name is MTG or anybody else. At the end of the day, the movement is not MTG, the movement is not Trump or any other politician. The movement is you. You're the one who decides who's tired of being lied to by both sides. If you're done with fake fighters using left wing scripts, hit the subscribe and stick around, because we're going to start holding our side to a higher standard, than the media will ever do. And I'm Blackwing Opinion, so let's raise the bar.